Buenos, hi there. Sun's come out. Haven't seen the sun for a while, man. Been horrible, terrible weather here. Cold, cold, cold. Rainy, rainy, rainy. Windy, windy, windy. And I'm really hoping that the wind isn't going to affect the quality of the video. In which case, apologies in advance. I don't hear any agricultural machine. They're very keen on buzzsaws in Spain. I think they find that very useful for the old olive tree lopping. Not heard that today, and I haven't heard any kind of traffic go by. So I think we're all right for the moment. Beautiful day, actually, shaping up to be, which would be a change, though a little windy. Okay, so as I explained in the previous video, I'm trying to do three at once today. I'm behind, and I wanted to kind of catch up a little bit. And I'm going to drop the three today, and then I'm going to make myself do at least some review of some of the books of the three that I've selected on Sunday, and really try and get back to that rhythm. Okay, so thank you. My first book of this morning was a non-fiction book, a history book. I have some fiction for a change. There's no reason why. It just, as I say, I close my eyes, I put my hand in the box. The first three I grab. That's what we read, right? Samuel R Delaney, Babel-17, I'm sure they say. And this is the first and so far only Samuel R Delaney novel I've read. I'm aware of him, obviously, and he's been on the edge of my vision for a long time. He's a big deal. Interesting character, I was going to say biologically, sociologically. A very interesting kind of culture, and I'm always wary of that you can kind of overshadow the fiction, right? So I don't know why I've waited so long. I picked this up, and it looks like maybe I bought this secondhand in Wigtown, right? I might do a separate video at some point about Wigtown. Maybe I should go back there. Fantastic town in Scotland. When we used to go for holidays with to a lovely place near there, and Wigtown is a town chock full of second-hand bookstores. And I learnt the other day that you can actually do an Airbnb where you can run a bookstore for a week, and I'm I'm going to have to do that before I fall off my perch, I think. And I remember buying all sorts of some great old science fiction books, paperbacks there, right? Picked this up years ago, didn't pay any attention to it, and finally got around to it. Okay, so right. 5-star review. I know I always try and get the 5-star. Some people say if it's going to be a low rating, I don't want to bother with this. The video, I understand that. I'm going to give this. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a tiny bit clunky. I think you can tell it was early on in his career. Yet at the same time, it is really quite impressive. Fairly kind of space opera-y plot, but the way he does it and the created world is really quite impressive. So, don't want to do spoilers, right? But I mean, essentially, very casually, we're in a very complicated world of we have thruples. We have I think the heart of the book is quite conventional heterosexuality, but there's definitely people who've got quite complicated arrangements and relationships. We've got some people who've no bodies. We have the vision is that you have the starflight is so complicated that you need a very like a 20 strong crew, all of whom have very different skills and cultural backgrounds and integrations, and that's kind of interesting. It's also a culture with an awful lot of body, not body alteration in the sense of cosmetic. Well, yes, the bodies change and people look like, I guess, dragons. I think is the idea. But the idea is that everyone accepts this. I think it's a very kind of early kind of shout to multiple diversity. You can be what you want. You can look how you want. You can do what you want, and all that. That's great, right? One can't be against that. But people kind of work together, and it all kind of makes sense, right? again, reassuring, interesting. Um, there's some stuff that didn't work for me so well. There's some poetry in here, and I'm always slightly suspicious of poetry in science fiction books. I mean, and some of this stuff, I think his imagination, beautiful imagination as it is, went a bit too far. I mean, we're talking about intergalactic war. We're talking about 5 galaxies, I think. I mean, that's a little ambitious there, Sam, mate. I'm not sure about that. That sort of put me out a little bit. There's no attempted explanation of the kind of physics of starflight and everything. Fair enough. But we have genetic alteration. We have spy stuff. We've got intergalactic war stuff. A lot of which is just kind of explained. There's the phrase, and that's great. That's great. That's what you want. And there's big ideas, and the big idea, which is ultimately, I suppose, the two things one goes to science fiction for are sort of, let's be honest, adventure of some nature. The adventure can be quite cerebral, and big ideas. And he's got some very big ideas. The big idea here is, and this was well before Arrival, the story of your life, all that kind of great stuff. Sorry, the author's name's just slipped my mind. Can't remember. Sorry. And so the idea is that if I got it right, I think ultimately this is a designed language that changes your mind, changes the way that you see the world, very much as in Arrival, as again, well before that. And it turns out to be quite charmingly, he cites a kind of as forerunners of this truly ancient computer programming languages, which I sort of know about. And I think he mentions one-off. I've never heard of one-off. He mentions Algol. Definitely that was a thing. And he mentions Fortran, which I believe still runs an awful lot of nuclear power plants. I might be wrong, but it's certainly out there. Certainly Fortran was still a thing when I started in the programming world in late 80s, right? And this is sometimes, it is quite charming when one reads books from the past of science fiction that try and talk casually about this world, but have so much of that of their world still in it. So we're somehow still I believe we still got punch cards in this future. Not sure if we've got smoking, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we often have a lot of smoking, but we certainly have paper. We certainly have paper printing. And there was one very, very charming bit, which is actually relevant to the story at a particular juncture, where in this complicated, the complicated crew structures you need on Delaney starships of this particular, I imagine, world. They've got kids, adolescents, I don't think children, but certainly young kids. And at one point, the point of view character demands some marbles from them, and they were immediately produced. You think, wow, when was the last time kids had marbles in their pockets? Right? I mean, yeah, marbles must still exist, I think, but as a casual thing that kids play with, I wouldn't say so, right? So that was quite nice. But things like that, I don't see them as a problem with the story. I see them as charming aspects of the narrative, and I don't have any problem with that. They don't anachronisms like that don't throw me out the story. They make me smile and realise that the text is of a time and of a place, and the person writing it was of a time and of a place, and that's fine. I think there was definitely a sense here. Now, maybe I'm projecting, because I know that he went off to do often quite mad and very, very literary ambitious things. There is a sense here that guys, it's £2 of science fiction and £1 pot, right? He's definitely bigger than this, and you can tell he is. And he tells his little intergalactic space opera, space war story, perfectly spy story, perfectly satisfactory. But there's more going on. The kind of the fantasized relationships and kind of fluid sexuality that you can just tell is there in his mind, That was obviously going to be something he would go on to play with. I don't think there's any particular hard science fiction ideas in here. Maybe the genetic engineering to some extent. The idea of the programming language that changes your reality and could be used to express things that we can't say in our normal language. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, definitely. I would go back to, at some point, they're not in my to-do pile, so it's against my rules to kind of buy stuff. But I think I would read. I'd take on Delaney. You know, I'd take on Dahlgren, right? I'd take on Nova. I'd add a quick dip into his something on the online about his kind of his non-fiction stuff. His other program. The kind of the gay sex one, man. No. Wow. I don't mean because it's. I think it's a little bit pedo from my gloss at it, and I think he does have some controversial opinion. I've just no interest in going anywhere near there. Though I did notice that my man Norman Mailer said it was that particular book, whatever it's called, is definitely serious literature. Not sure about that. I mean, not sure that I'd go there. So interesting, yes. A 5 out of 5. No. I gave it 4.5, didn't I? Some of the sort of clunkiness makes it stops it being a 5. I'd go back to, this, or would I pass this on for someone else to use it as their entry drug into Delaney, which I'm hoping to pursue myself. Maybe I should recycle it and give someone else the opportunity. Interesting read. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to try and do one more today, release them in 3 as a trio, and quick pause now, my friends, and I will come back to you in a second with my third and last of today. Thank you. Bye bye.